Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Analytics Mindset. In this case, we're going to go through another Microsoft certification. This is the Security Compliance and Identity Fundamentals, also known as the SC-900, as you can see here. I am my certification on March 10th, and I will go through the main concepts for the certification, some tips that I find useful to pass, and some other stuff to go through as well. I have done some Microsoft certifications in the past. You can see the videos here somewhere in the video. And with no further ado, let's keep going with this. This credential is a fundamental certification. As you can see here, you can see that the level is beginner is for mostly security. And it's going to be, it was last updated on January 1st, January 23rd, 2024. That's the exam I took. However, it's going to be updated again on April 25th. Minor changes. Still, you might want to review this page again if you see this video, just in case there is something that has changed a lot, that I doubt, because these certifications are updated pretty often, but they are not really, they don't really change a lot, and less so this one. Some staff also notes to have here Microsoft 365, for example, Defender Portal has been renamed to Microsoft Defender Portal. This is one of the most important things that will be in the old exam that I took, but will be like this in the new exam. Again, change of name, not really that important. And what I would recommend you to do is, as I said in previous videos, you should prepare for the exam first with the course itself. The course is really around 9 hours. I would say I went through it twice, but it has everything you need to pass the exam. I would say that. You don't need any external resources. I know there is a ton of them. You could go into the paid courses. You could do some additional stuff. You could do a lot of other stuff too. It's up to you. I feel what you have here is more than enough to pass the exam with a good score. You can also practice exam. We're going to go into that later. You can actually see the questions that they will ask you, and to my experience, it's pretty close to what the exam will actually ask you. And you can actually just experience also a demo with the interface that you have for the exam. I will not go into that now, but it's an option there. You have 45 minutes to complete this thing. In practice, it's more around 60 minutes, but that's because you have the check-in point. If you're taking it online, you will need to do it with the check-in and all that stuff. If you're doing it in person, you're actually going to need to go to the testing center. You will also have conditions, agreements, etc. In practice will be more than 60 minutes. However, 45 minutes to just complete the exam itself, because whenever you finish something, it will go straight into the next part, and the exam itself is only 45 minutes. From that being said, if you were to fail certification, you can retake it 24 hours after your first attempt. And for all retakes, the amount of time varies. You have the following languages if you want to change for another language, and it will be $99 for you to take the certification. So yeah, it is not free, unfortunately. There is a lot of other resources here, but again, I would say that the path should be more than enough to pass this exam. With that finished, let's go first through the course. The first part of the course, it's this, as you can see, is a self-direct training. You could also get a training provider and get actual training with somebody if you wanted to. I would say it's probably not necessary. You will go through, as the name says, 3 main points: security, compliance, and identity across cloud-based and related Microsoft services. And you will understand how it works, as well as these 3 points over here. These are the main parts of the self-study part of it that we're going to focus now. The first one is the most basic one. Describe security and compliance concepts. You will go through a lot of Microsoft solutions and see things like the zero trust model, encryption, data residency, and data sovereignty. With this, you want to know that, at least from my perspective, similar to other Microsoft certifications, there is 2 parts here in the fundamentals. One is the theory that doesn't change from provider to provider. For example, Access management is always going to be access management, regardless of what platform you do it, for example, or identity management. How do you create an identity? How do you do the life cycle to it, etc. But then you have things specific to Microsoft, for example. They will ask you, what is the main service that you would use to manage identities? That would be Entra, but that is something specific to Microsoft. So those are two paths there. This one specifically mixes both of them, but some of these units go more towards what's specific to Microsoft, and some of them go more towards what is actually specific to the concept itself. The zero trust model and defensive depth, for example, are just for everything. You have the shared responsibility model. If you have done cloud computing before, you will find this very, very similar and very familiar to you. At the end of each of these units, there is a knowledge check that I would strongly recommend you to do in order to be able to check your knowledge. For example, one of them would be that you want to ensure the store employee data is encrypted. Which security mechanism you would use? You should put encrypt on transcript. I'm not gonna do anything else because it will take too much time. Actually, I do need to put everything else. So let's just go ahead. Share responsibility. The constraint on employees, the organization. Let's just go really quickly through it. And then you will be like defense in depth security. But you get the point. You just need to do the knowledge check and be sure that you understand it so you can do it and get your answer and your feedback. The next one is describe identity concepts. This is all about identity and concept of federation, Active Directory, Entra, identity providers, etc. You will go through why it's important to have an identity and secure it for corporate resources and identity-related services for Microsoft as well. You will see that there is some prerequisites here. I would say it helps a lot to know this. However, you can also study on your own, and also in the summary, you are always given to more information if you need to have further reading there. If you have, again, a background in cloud computing, networking, or just in general technology, it will be way easier. I will just say that. You will feel familiar with a lot of concepts there and go way faster through the material. The next one will be the functional entity types of Microsoft Entra ID that if you have been using Azure for a long time, don't confuse yourself. I found the cross to be very, very inconsistent with the naming. It is the same thing as Microsoft Azure Active Directory, even though it's not the same as Active Directory. That was the old name. Now it's called Entra, but that's something to have into account. You can have cloud-based identity and access management to people, apps, devices, and data. You can learn about the functions and identity types there, and you will go through what is a hybrid identity, what are the kinds of identities we have, what are external identities that you can bring, and the knowledge check as always. The next one is the authentication capabilities of Entra. There you can go to how to authenticate. Multi-factor authentication is a very important part here. Improve security, and how you can do service password reset. So that will be a lot more on the technical side, on the administrative side of things, and password protection and management capabilities. From there, you will also go into the authentication methods, for example. So opening this really quickly, you will see that Microsoft will give you have passwords, you have phone, you have OAuth, open authentication, passwordless authentication, Windows Hello, etc., etc. You have a lot of ways to do it. And this little table will be very helpful for you to just have it handy and just, if you can, remember it at least to high level when you're taking the exam. There you will go to describe access management capabilities of Microsoft Entra ID. How do you manage access, role-based access control? How do you help organizations manage and control access, etc. Conditional access is an important part of it, as well as central roles. And this is actually a very small unit, so I will not really bother that much into it. Probably conditional access, understanding how it works, will be the most important part of it. As you can see here, You're basically verifying things based on some conditions. That's what's called conditional. Then we'll have the describe identity protection and governance capabilities of Microsoft Entra, where you will go into how to do Microsoft Entra ID governance, access reviews, and title management. That would be pretty important too. Privilege and entity management is pretty easy to confuse those two. I did confuse those two. Enter permissions management, verified ID, and then the knowledge check as always. Core infrastructure security services in Azure. If you have a networking background, this is very, very easy for you. It's going to go through Microsoft DDoS protection, firewall, web application security, network segmentation, all that fancy stuff in Azure. Even so, if you have background in security, in actually implementing network security, this is pretty much just an implementation of it in this certification. This will be very easy. How to protect virtual machines, how to keep secrets with Azure Keyboard. And because this is a fundamental certification, it doesn't really go very deep into context in any single part of it. It goes, strokes here and there, very general, but it doesn't really go inside a lot there. You will then go into describe the security management capabilities in Azure, how Defender for Cloud works, what capabilities bring, how can you understand the cloud secure score, recommendations, and all enhanced features that you have. Security policies or something else, improve cloud security posture, and can you protect about cyber threats and vulnerabilities. You also have how you can use DevOps security management. So that's something else there. Let me open it really quickly to go through it. You have the DevOps part here where you can see some additional stuff here and how you unite people, processes, and technologies in application planning, development, delivery, and operations. Here is where we go more into the heavy service side. Microsoft Sentinel is a very powerful, scalable, cloud-based, and cloud-native security information event management system, and also has security orchestration, automated response. You should know these terms for Sentinel. It's a very short model. However, you should know how Sentinel integrates with other parts of the Microsoft services and security pilot. So yeah, we'll open this really quickly. I will leave the definition here. You can look more into it when you're actually reviewing the exam, but you should know those two definitions. That's the core of this whole unit here. There we go to threat protection with Microsoft Defender XDR. That is a very big service compared to Sentinel, where you will see how you can defend against cyber threats, how you can describe it, how can you integrate protection, and finally, how can you use every single service there. So as you can see here, there is a lot more to do here in Microsoft Defender XDR. You have all services, Office 365, endpoint, cloud apps, etc. For most of these, it's just to understand which service you would use for what. It might seem like a lot, but it just covers onto what does this service do, how you protect this. Let's go into Office 365. There is something that a lot of us should be familiar with. For example, for 365, you have email security, attachments, collaboration tools like SharePoint, Teams, and Outlook. If you need to protect anything on these paths, you will say it will be Microsoft Defender for Office X 365. Microsoft Service Trust Portal is another service more on the governance side that also integrates with Microsoft Priva to get to your privacy goals. How can you describe these offerings? What are the Microsoft privacy security principles? For example, this will be important. You should know at least to broad concept what it means each of these things. You don't need to know definition, I would say, but you should know at least what they mean. Then you have the compliance management with Microsoft Purview. How can you manage the compliance needs? How can you use the compliance manager and compliance score? And how can you manage, simplify, and improve compliance across an organization? You have a compliance score, don't confuse this with your security score. They are very similar, but they are also different in some ways. I will leave that to you to your study, to your own study. Then you will go into another purview path. In this case, it's information protection, data set lifecycle management, and data governance, where you can see how you can govern your data and use your data on different stuff, such as data classification. That will be very important. Sensitivity labels, you might be used to them if somebody in your work, for example, sends you an email and says sensitive. That is a sensitivity label in Outlook. Data loss prevention, data retention policies, records management, purview unified data governance solution, and then your knowledge check. And wrapping up, then we have the insider risk capabilities. What happens if somebody wants to leak information from your organization? This is all about this unit. How can you remediate that with purview? How can you remediate insider risk management, communication compliance, etc. And finally, you have the last unit, e-discovery and audit capabilities on Microsoft Purview. E-discovery, how can you collect, identify, and put stuff together for an investigation, for example, or just a business reason. Then you have the audit. How can you audit stuff? How can you actually, if somebody asks you in accounting, for example, I need to review these transactions, that would be an audit that you need to perform. Purview can do that for you. Very short unit, going really quickly through it. First, you start with the e-discovery solution. You should know how they are separated from each other and what do you add when you pay more, basically, for them. On the audit side, you will go into the audit standard audit premium. So again, really quickly, really small unit. And that's pretty much it. After that, I would really recommend you to go to the practice assessment. There is different stuff going around it and very different questions that may come around. A lot of these questions are also tricky because they will draw from the concept, but they will actually ask you to understand to some degree what it means. That is something that you should be aware of. For example, in this one, the shared security model, which was retained by the customer by hosting infrastructure of a service. You will need to know what this means and how to answer this. If you don't know, you can just check your answer here and it will give you the question answer. I will also say that you can retake this exam as many times as you can. I strongly recommend you to at least take it once. If you can, take it twice. If you can score more than an 80% in this exam, as Microsoft recommends, you have a high chance of passing the exam. I will focus more though on understanding why you are wrong. Instead, for example, let's say I put operating system, and it will give you the answer. The customer must manage operating system for virtual machines, and the cloud provider manages the physical host networks and data center. If I was wrong, it will still give me a message of which one is the correct one, and it will give me the resource in Microsoft Learn. I will strongly encourage you to do that and to understand why you're wrong. And an 80 or more score should be enough for you to be able to pass again the actual exam. But yeah, and let me close this. And with that being said, I do hope that this was useful for you. If it was, please leave a like, leave a comment. And yeah, if you are planning on taking the certification, best of luck. There is a lot of other resources that you can use. And I really hope the best for you. Thank you. Have a good day.